Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mitchell.
I'm Christopher
This is
Knopf.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell. Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Today, we have an album fight that is a battle royal.
Yeah.
I mean, we've referred to this particular album fight as Ali Frazier, and it's only our second one.
Yeah, well, it's timely because the Grammys just happened, and there's a lot of back and forth about the Grammy organization picking the right albums. You know, Kanye has disagreed with them, and there's been a bunch of these things. So we looked at those two behemoth albums and said, let's see what happens.
Yeah, so today's two records are the first solo album by Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, and the sixth album from Billy Joel, which is 52nd Street.
Yeah.
And I would say that, you know, what we're looking at here, if we can make comparisons, is the Off the Wall is the young Mike Tyson.
Boy.
And, yeah, and Michael Jackson's customato is Quincy Jones. And he's coming out and, you know, he's a powerhouse and he's figuring himself out and he's getting to know himself as an artist and under the guidance of a master.
Yeah.
Versus Ali, in my comparison to Billy Joel and Ali, is that Ali later in his career where Angelo Dundee was around, but he was around as eyes and ears, and Ali knew enough about himself to know what he was doing. And that's not to belittle the role of producer on 52nd Street that was so artfully filled by Phil Ramone. But by now, 6 albums in, Billy Joel was a veteran and had a vision and a voice that he was very, very in control of. So
Yeah, I kind of liked Billy Joel to like Larry Holmes a little bit, where he has his like that jab. He has that thing he can always go to, and he's clearly a master. But you're right, Phil and Quincy do their part in this, and they approach it how they approach music, and they definitely play a role in this fight. I can't wait to break this thing down with you.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Now, for our audience, there are a couple things you ought to know. First thing is that Pete and I acknowledge that we are expressing opinions and that you get to have your opinion. This is the point of this exercise. So if you think we're wrong, fuck you. No, if you think we're wrong, you get to think we're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's great. And you should chime in because maybe you think of something that we hadn't thought of. The other thing is that we do some preparation in that we're picking albums that we're familiar with and we refresh our memory on these albums, or we have in the case of both of these records, how much refreshing did you have to do? Or is your familiarity with these albums pretty much a constant in your life to some degree?
You can't avoid these albums. The songs constantly play. And so, but I did go through with more detail because I wanted to understand better. This is an actual analysis. It wasn't just, going off a thing. And one of the things I do, if you interact with me on Twitter, at Pete A. Turner, is I'll say #do the work. So don't come in and say Michael Jackson wins the second I put this thing up. And you're allowed to, of course. But I also will #do the work because you haven't done the work. So I'm going to do the work because I hold people accountable because this is a rigorous exercise. And it is meant to give greater appreciation and greater enjoyment of what we're listening to. If you only like Ozzy Osbourne, that's great. You don't have to play the game. You certainly can vote, but know what? I'm going to #do the work you.
Yep, as always. So I want to point out some similarities between these two records because they have quite a few similarities. They came out pretty close together. I think Off the Wall came out in 78 and 52nd Street came out in 79, but not far apart. They both are just musical powerhouses. I mean, the cast of characters on both of these records are just ridiculous. The Off the Wall, I mean, come on. you start with Quincy Jones. There were so many people who played on Off the Wall. I mean, the rhythm section, J.R. Robinson, Louis Johnson, you had Rod Temperton, Paul McCartney wrote on the record.
David Foster wrote on the record.
David Foster wrote on the record. Jerry Hay did the horn arrangements. George Duke was on the record. Paulino DaCosta, Larry Carlton, Patty Austin. I mean, so many. Greg Fillinganes.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Porcaro. So many people played on this record. Hawk Walensky. On the other hand, 52nd Street. You know, same thing. I mean, it was not just, you had the core band, Doug Stegmeyer, Liberty DeVito, Richie Cannata, Steve Kahn, but you also had Mike Manieri played on the record, Ralph McDonald, Eric Gale, Dave Grusin, Hugh McCracken played guitar on the record.
And the point is made, like, both these albums, they're great in part because the people that built them are incredible. And the other thing is Rolling Stone.
And they spared no expense.
No, absolutely. These are acts that are developed and have access to money. You don't hire Quincy if you don't have a checkbook, because he's going to hire a lot of people.
Right. Yes.
And Rolling Stone also has both these albums in the top 500. They put Billy Joel in at 352, and they put Michael Jackson in at 68.
Oh, boy.
Both these albums were nominated for Grammy for Album of the Year. The same year, Billy Joel
won. Yeah.
So this is going to be close. It's going to come down to things that we don't expect, and there is a song difference in the song count. Michael Jackson threw up one extra song, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Mm-hmm. I think we just start going track for track and put the work in.
Well, I have to acknowledge too that we have a matchup of drummers here who I am, emotionally attached to. I mean, JR's been on the show. This is one of those cases where, people say you shouldn't meet your heroes because they usually disappoint you. And I've had the pleasure of meeting J.R. Robinson and Liberty DeVito, and they're both marvelous human beings and amazing drummers. And they both came to me at this juncture in my life where I was really figuring out what music was and its reference to the rest of the way the world works. So, yeah, I'm going to have a hard time because of the work of both of these individuals who I absolutely love. So, in that regard, this album fight's going to be a tie, gentlemen. So, we love J.R. Robinson for having been on. Liberty DeVito, we just met at NAMM. I met him at NAMM years ago as well, and he is terrific and agreed to be on the show, so we're going to work out whenever we get him. So maybe JR gets a little bit of a nose ahead because he's an alum of the show, but Lib's going to be on the show pretty soon, so we're going to flatten that out. Also want to point out that both of these albums feature bass players who we absolutely love and adore. Louis Johnson, who passed on not long ago, and Doug Stegmeyer, who took his own life a few years ago. And so we miss both of those guys, and we're glad that they left this work behind.
And since we're talking about remembering bass players, it's probably the official time for us to mention the passing of Rich Roos.
Yep.
And that's a shame, and he's been on the show, and clearly too soon, and he was a special person, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his daughter and his family, and we're losing we keep losing people, and that's not going to stop. But it's still, when we lose someone, especially someone who's been on the show, it's shitty.
Yeah, it is shitty. We feel it, and we love you, Rich, up there. He's probably having a good time with Louis Johnson. They knew each other. He told a great Louis Johnson story on his episode of the show. So I'm glad we captured that episode of the show. And I'm really happy that we have his voice to listen to, and we miss you, Rich. Thanks for bringing that up, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So.
Oh, boy.
You want to talk about round one?
Yeah.
How about Big Shot?
Jesus.
Versus Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
Yeah. This is a monster.
Monster.
I mean,
monster round one.
Man, this is so tough. What do you think?
Okay, so Big Shot introduced a number of concepts to me as I made sense of music, and the first and most important was the masculinity of the composition and of the execution. It's one of those songs where it made it okay to sing a song with your chest out. And for that, I really love the song. There's great composition in the poetry. 52nd Street, the poetry on 52nd Street is just amazing.
Yeah.
And it starts with Big Shot, and it establishes itself as, this album is going to start off with, we're men. Okay? And if you say something to me, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. And I love that about Big Shot. On the other hand, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to nits. There's no doubt about it, because both these songs are, and I talk about, these are pillars of the individual artist's catalog. You have to, if Michael Jackson was still with us, he would perform this song in his greatest set list. And Billy Joel absolutely plays Big Shot. He might even open with Big Shot. Uh-huh. So these songs, there is no difference, essentially. But if I'm going to have to pick something, I'm going to take the words of Billy Joel over saying "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" about 40 times in the song. And I know that repetition because it's the hook and it works and it's great, but I'm going to take the better words in this case, the greater choice of words on Billy Joel.
Wow.
Yeah. Because musically, I don't know what you do.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. I just think the sheer force of that song is what pushes it ahead for me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do think about Billy Joel's that left hand, and as he hammers those chords down, it's just like I didn't know the piano could be played with that much emphasis, like you said, that chest out, and then the way he sings those, if you get to be a just without even reading the backstory of the song, it's an argument, and maybe it's an argument with yourself, maybe it's an argument at your girl who's hungover, but they get that so right. It's
you got to acknowledge the very simple, purposeful, absolute musical phrase of dum 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 dum. So simple, and yet so effective. And that's great. Okay, so we split round one.
I'm going to mark this thing down on my end and go 9-10 for you.
Okay.
All right. Michael Jackson's next round versus Billy Joel.
God, this is such a Rock With You versus Honesty. Honesty, oh man. Again, very sincere, very wide open, very out there, lyrically just vulnerable. Rock With You, on the other hand, with the iconic opening, that opening means so much to me in my life that this is tough, man. This is so tough.
It is really hard. And if we look at the other side, we look at Billy Joel, we're talking about one of his most important songs, a song that undoubtedly was played at 1 million weddings. It's a song that has to it is like the first dance or whatever it's going to be. Beyonce covers it beautifully. This is, and if Beyonce chooses to cover your song, that means something because she didn't have to cover it.
That's powerful composition.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm going to tell you what I think. I think Michael Jackson comes out and drops Billy Joel to his knee, and there's a standing 8. I think that. I just think that when Michael Jackson nails it, we talked to Bergie the other day, and he talked about finding the edge. And this is at their level, not at our level. This is at their level.
Yeah.
First time I went to too little, I said, next time, no way, I'm going to do it. And I found the edge that day. The next Olympics, he did too much and didn't find the gold. And this right here is Michael Jackson finding the gold. Rock With You, JR. This song, you can play this song for the next 50 years. And it will always be awesome.
Yeah, that's really saying something. I'm leaning Rock With You, too. I can't say enough about Honesty, but I'm leaning Rock With You as well.
Yeah. Okay. I have it as a knockdown,
3.
by the way, so I do have a 2-point advantage on this. Are you just saying it's a 9-10 round then?
Yeah, you know what? I have to get familiar with the scoring method, so I'm just picking a winner or a, you know,
right. I'm going to score that as a regular thing. Okay.
But no, you do what you do what you're doing, and then we'll talk about that scoring method so I can get it down. But in the meantime, also Rock With You, Rod Temperton, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
So great piece of work by Rod Temperton. All right, round 3. Working Day and Night versus My Life. Oh man.
Yeah. What do you think?
What are we doing here? This is ridiculous. It's not even. This is such an impossible task.
I know, but you know what? When those guys watched Ali Frazier 3, they had the same impossible task. Now, luckily, those guys decided to fight for him, but they were judges ready to give their cards to a ref. So we got to do the work, man.
That's true. I called out Pato Milo, and I'm going to, I said, don't be no punk. So I can't be no punk. Okay. The thing about Working Day and Night is it's absolutely one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs and one of my favorite songs.
Right.
So it's really tough to ever consider that I might vote against Working Day and Night.
But you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to run up against My Life. And here's the thing about the musical execution of My Life is that there isn't a way that I can think of ever that a group of individuals can come up with a musical accompaniment to such an important message. And again, we go back to Billy Joel's poetry because what he's saying in this song, closed the shop, sold the house, bought a ticket to the West Coast, now he gives him a stand-up routine in L.A., that speaks to a generation right there.
Yeah.
That says we don't have to work in the fucking factory anymore.
Go ahead with your own life. Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
And you know, when I look at lyrics, they mean a lot to me, and they do drive my decision. I did go against Michael Jackson because they just ran the hook over and over and over again, and I would be critical of George Harrison for doing that in the song when he, I Had My Life, say, that song. That's critical of that because you can do better. Michael and Rod Temperton and all those people in the room, on occasion it works. But against this Billy Joel guy who writes really good words, I don't cut it. And this is where Billy Joel just absolutely comes in with the song. So Michael Jackson has a party song, Working Day and Night, and all that kind of thing. That's great.
Again, one of my favorite songs in history.
Right. But in this one, I'm going to tell you, Billy Joel comes right back out, and he's like, you put me on my knee last round? Check this. Bam.
I'm punching you in the liver.
He does. Yeah. And Michael Jackson takes a knee and goes, oh, shit, this is serious. Jesus, I thought I was great, and there's someone out here who's just as great. This is what we want to see.
Yeah. And the thing about My Life is that 1,000 years from now, these lyrics are still going to stand up.
Yeah.
They're still going to stand up. They're still going to speak to the human condition, and they're still going to have the meaning that says, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm taking control of this for me. And I don't know that there's ever been a more important message captured in music than the message of independence and the message of perseverance and the message of and it's embodied perfectly here. So, yeah, for me, round 3, Billy Joel.
I feel like bad almost because I got to put the disclaimer in again. We love this music. Yeah. We're not being punks. We're going to say what we think. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. If you want a party song, great, vote for that song. But if you want a song that speaks to everybody's like, hey, I'm jumping off this cliff. I'm going to take my shot at comedy. I don't even care if I make it, but I'm not going to do this anymore because it's my life. Do whatever you want. Just leave me alone. I'm going to go do this. That's always going to be, at least for Americans and a lot of people in the world, it's going to matter. And it's going to move people. And, boy.
Okay.
Let me make sure I mark this thing down. So, you're going to go 9-10. Okay. It doesn't get any easier. That song is ridiculous.
Yep.
So Zanzibar is Billy Joel trying to mix things up. He's like, okay, I can't keep getting punched in the face like this. I worked with my Latin coach. I'm going to start doing some of that stuff he showed me. Because these two albums, there's the flash and the trumpets and the bigness and the showiness of Michael Jackson's album. And then for the most part, Billy Joel's album is four dudes playing instruments led by a piano.
It's pared back, yeah.
Yeah, they're gritty. And so this mid-fight stuff is really where these guys show you, like, all right, I'm going to do me. And I'm going to show you what happens when I mess around with the Latin side of things. This is what Zanzibar is. There's a little jazz in there. And I'm doing a call out to all of my people. I mean, this is Billy Joel living and walking around New York City and doing things and saying, I'm inspired by this. And it's incredible.
This is what I think is approachable Cuban.
Okay.
And the other thing about Zanzibar, Liberty DeVito's double time swing at the end of Zanzibar is fucking ridiculous. So there, I've said that.
I wrote a note in there that you were going to love what Liberty DeVito does with the swing.
Yeah.
And how they I'll say, because I don't know the difference, but how they get into that bossa nova world. And I know how much you love bossa nova and all the things connected to that part of the universe. Mm-hmm. So I knew that you were going to identify with that song a lot.
It's so effective and it's so moving and it's just simple. Get to what makes you move your booty. Mm-hmm. Zanzibar, for me, is one of my favorite songs on the record.
Yeah.
It is the origin of Fly Girl.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Two old songs. But yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about the song is that it is sort of a departure from the rest of the record, but none of these songs are an attempt at a departure.
Right.
You know, this song was not recorded with a, hey, you know what we need? We need something with some Latin flair. This is just the band being themselves and expressing this particular emotion, which is, let's move the crowd like this a little bit. And I think that it's, man, I love this song.
I think it's also an expression of what they're experiencing. They're in New York. You're going to walk into a Latin bar and be like, God damn, who are these guys?
Man,
you know?
that's good. Yeah.
I want to play a song like that.
If you're lucky, you walk into a bar and Freddie Hubbard's playing the trumpet, as he did on Zanzibar. So, yeah, I'm leaning Zanzibar. I will have to say, though, I have to acknowledge that what we're putting it up against is Get on the Floor, which is Louis Johnson in all of his grand Louis Johnson-ness. The reason he has a callus on his thumb is from playing songs like this, and I love Get on the Floor, and I love that bass line, and I miss Louis Johnson, one of the greatest to pick up the instrument ever. I got to go Zanzibar, though.
Get on the Floor is disco heavy, and obviously this is a disco album, but I don't think they found the mark on this song. But that Get on the Floor, that hook is so good. And maybe if there were a little less strings, and I don't know how you do that, maybe this song would hit the mark just a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't think the strings aged well, huh?
I just don't. You know what? On this album, it's not the best version of that.
Yeah.
And
okay, here's another thing, though, to acknowledge about the albums as a whole, is that 52nd Street has not aged one bit. Not one bit. So it's, you know, I don't know how old Billy Joel was, and you guys listening can go look that up. But this was Billy Joel as a young man, and his band was full of young men, and they were at their fighting weight.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the record now, not a day has gone by.
Definitely agree. And when Beyonce does her cover of Honestly, you can hear it. She's playing the same song. She's doing a straight up cover.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of compositional difference, and it's spoken from a female's point of view, which makes it beautiful. But Billy Joel's music is aging very well. Although we are about to get into the weaker-legged rounds where both these guys have suffered damage from one another. They both have been on their knee, at least as far as my scorecard goes. So we're going to see, you know, these guys are going to have to dig deep and get to the heart of who they are, and we're about to see that. I have these two songs even though this one's too disco for me, it's still wonderful. And the bass, I think absolutely the bass line for me makes this song stand up, and it's great. And Michael Jackson does what Michael Jackson does well.
The bass line is the legs of the song, though. I agree with you. All right, so what did you have? You had it as a draw? Oh boy.
I had it. Yep, I had it as a push. Yeah, these guys 10-10 each.
Wow. Okay.
I just couldn't discern a difference there good enough to go on. I love
hear you.
Zanzibar.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find the difference that I needed. Which brings us to another impossible fight.
Another impossible fight. The iconic Off the Wall versus Stiletto.
Yeah. Stiletto surprised me.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to hit the filler right here and really not have a strong song.
Yeah.
But that is not at all the case.
No, it's not at all the case. Not close.
No.
But we go back again to the lyrical prowess. You know, she's so good with her stiletto, you don't even see the blade.
Uh-huh. Yep. But you stand there pleading with your insides bleeding.
Right. Yes.
What? You're still in love with this girl after she cut you? Damn. You know, and that's what a stiletto does. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to run away, but you know you're going to stay. Because she gives you what you need. Off the Wall was such a different texture than everything else musically that was happening right then. And it was, for its musical importance, it's undeniable. I love Stiletto. Stiletto's great.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, I got to lean Off the Wall, though.
I see this in a very similar way where both of these songs are close.
Mm-hmm.
And where I pushed last time, and maybe you were right, maybe that was Billy Joel's round with Zanzibar. Maybe this is Michael Jackson's round. I couldn't see a difference when I just kept going back and forth between the craft work of Stiletto and then just the groove in Off the Wall, and then that chorus and how Michael Jackson sings it. I can't find enough difference. I lack the mental musical eloquence to get to a spot where I can say one or the other, and I don't feel I have to. I pick nits when I can find them.
Right. I
just can't find where I can confidently say this is Michael Jackson beating Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Although I don't begrudge that opinion because it's a great fucking song.
Yep.
Off the Wall is great.
Yeah, and one of the greatest bridges in pop music.
Yeah. And the horns, da-da-da-da, they're just right there,
Yep.
just doing what Quincy Jones does. Just taking that whole thing and just, making it bigger and better. I love it. I called it a draw.
Okay, so you're pushing on this one, and I'm calling it Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Now, Girlfriend versus Rosalinda's Eyes.
So 2 girlfriends.
I just have to say, just because of the sheer power of Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
How do you get around it?
Yeah. It's poppy, and that's kind of Paul McCartney's, that's his go-to, you cannot beat weapon. That's him. He's like Bruce Lee with the nunchucks when he writes a poppy kind of love song.
Yeah.
And so there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And so I think Billy Joel gets to a different, maybe a place that I like better because it's not as poppy. But you cannot outdo Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson collaborating on a song.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney wrote this song for Michael Jackson. I'm going to write him a song.
Yep.
And
he did. He executed on the idea that he was writing this song not for himself, for
Right.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Rosalinda's Eyes can't beat Paul McCartney doing what Paul McCartney does. And no one has ever done pop better than Paul McCartney. And if anybody's done any aspect of it better, it's the performance. And Michael Jackson can outperform Paul McCartney. So it's a perfect storm. You have to love the song.
Yeah, you got to love the song. I think we're going Girlfriend on that one.
Yep, we are.
Rosalinda's Eyes, though, this is a tough task all the way around.
All the way around.
Okay, now we have She's Out of My Life and Half Mile Away.
I do want to say this about where we're at in this fight and close the Rosalinda's Eyes thing out as well. When you look at the album up to this point, that's the first track where you go, oh, it's not up to the cut of the other songs. That song is great on almost anybody else's album.
Yes, right.
But on this one, it's the first time you're like, okay. That's a nice song.
Yeah.
But we do start to hit this part of the album where the music is starting to not be at the catalog foundational level, which is not to say these songs are bad. It's just to say there is a difference.
Yeah, and I've never liked She's Out of My Life. I mean, I know that a lot of people think of that as Michael Jackson at his most vulnerable, and that for a lot of people, that vulnerability was what gave Michael Jackson his musical personality, and I respect that opinion absolutely, but She's Out of My Life just doesn't do it for me.
Just like on Billy Joel's album, we've seen the step down. This is Quincy Jones saying, I've been holding this song for Frank Sinatra. Hey, Michael, why don't you sing it to show people this aspect of what you do? And he does that. But it's not like this cut has to be on there because this is the absolute best piece of work we can do. They're doing something else. And it falls short for me. It's Michael Jackson doing Michael Jackson at a level, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I actually give this round to Michael, but this is Billy Joel and Michael sort of showing us their heart.
Yeah.
And I like Michael Jackson's heart a little better on this song.
Okay. Yeah, fair
But
enough.
just barely.
I mean, Half a Mile Away was... it was not my favorite. So I don't think it was anybody's favorite song on this record. Might be wrong about that. Feel free to call me out, listeners. But She's Out of My Life was ultimately, I think the deal was the guy who wrote She's Out of My Life, whose name now escapes me, worked with Rod Temperton, and they kind of came together to write several songs, and this is one of the ones they wrote. And they wrote it for that purpose, to give Michael Jackson something that he could emote on. And JR didn't play on that song, so I don't like it. Anyway.
It's Tom Baylor.
Oh, Tom Baylor.
It was a breakup. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a breakup song before he dated Karen Carpenter. He had, had like a 2-year relationship, but I can't remember the girl he dated. But Tom Baylor can write a song for anybody, and it's going to be great.
Yep.
The guy knows how to write songs.
Yes. Nice pull. Thanks for coming up with it.
No, I had read those notes an hour ago, so
Okay.
I can pull it now. But Tom Baylor's still with us. I'd love to have Tom Baylor on the show.
Yeah. That'd be terrific. She's Out of My Life.
So, which way do you go on that? Do you go towards Billy Joel?
No,
or?
I'm going to go She's Out of My Life.
Okay. I think we both agree on that. So where are you at with round 8?
Round 8. I Can't Help It versus Until the Night. I'm not really big on I Can't Help It. I'm going with Until the Night.
Again, this is for me. These two guys, these aren't the hits.
Yeah.
These are the songs that fill out the album, so you get to hear what they do well. And
But it is in the boxing context, it is a tired round 8.
Yeah. It's absolutely a tired round 8. And
Who's going to fight better fatigued?
Right. Yeah. Well, and there's, again, nothing wrong with either one of these songs, but the Everly Brothers kind of callback with that Billy Joel does,
Yeah.
and it's cool. I like it, and I can't fault anybody who likes Michael Jackson's song better, but I'll take the Everly Brothers lean of this Billy Joel song, and I'll say he gets the better of Michael on this, just by a hair, though, Maybe it's that flurry in the last 30 seconds. He's like, no one's won this round. I'm just going to outwork him at the end. And that won't buy all the judges' favor, but it bought mine.
Mine too.
Okay. Wow. We're really seeing this in a very similar way. We're not exactly the same, but it appears to be coming down very close. David Foster's going to show up in this fight right now.
He is going to show up in this fight right now. It's the Falling in Love was, as much as this is sort of a disco album, it's sort of not really a disco album in a lot of ways. It's a funk album in a lot of ways. And this was a disco song on a funk album. And I do mean that in a way that's not complimentary. We went through a period in music history where America believed that disco sucked.
Yeah.
And then we came out with what was called house music, and it was really just disco. And suddenly that didn't suck. So I've never subscribed to this theory that disco sucked. We just got tired of it for a little while. And this was not the greatest representative of good disco music. I love David Foster. I love what he was doing at the time. I mean, he had, Come Out Swinging with After the Love Is Gone, and he's great with the ballads and he's great with a lot of things, but it's the Falling in Love. I didn't really dig it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the close of 52nd Street.
And it is a close. And it's strong.
It's a close, and I don't think this is close.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is Billy Joel saying, okay, here's my last big swings at this, and he is definitely taking a deep cut.
Yeah, right. And he makes contact, and he hits one at the very least into the warning track in the gap. With 52nd Street.
And if you doubt Billy Joel at all, and you think, he's just, a lyricist, here comes that left hand again.
Yep.
That Larry Holmes.
Oh,
like,
man.
Bam, bam, bam. Those chords just keep coming.
Yes.
And, I definitely see this, for me, as a decisive round. And when I look at all of this, as the album as a whole, this is why Billy Joel beats Michael Jackson in the Grammys. It's a New York era for the Grammys, and here's not even the best song on the album, but look at what this song does to you when you hear it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was a New York era in the Grammys. It was a New York era in the country, I think, and it was and Michael Jackson had an album that was completely conceived and completely executed in Los Angeles. An album that we love, but 52nd Street, I think, steals this one. And I'd even be willing to say, now we can address the fact that there's one more track on Off the Wall.
Yeah.
And if we bundle up It's the Falling in Love and Burn This Disco Out, I'm still going with 52nd Street.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, if that's going to be a bonus round, is that enough to take over and make a difference? And I don't think that Michael Jackson closes the album out as strong. Burn This Disco Out, it is a dated song, and, it's not something that is going to decide this fight. And when I look back, I know both albums have 5 good songs, but these extra songs just aren't at the same level. And again, they're great songs, but no one's playing Burn This Disco Out. No one's grabbing their Spotify and saying, I got to play Burn This Disco Out. I love that song. Ever. But 52nd Street, you better believe it.
Yeah.
There's people that love that song.
Right. Even a DJ in some situation where he's going for obscurity doesn't play Burn This Disco Out.
Yeah. When I scored this, I scored this as another knockdown, over just a worn out Michael Jackson. They're just the songs, he couldn't keep up the pace. And when Billy Joel was able to crank it up and drop 52nd Street on him, he had to take a knee. He gets through the round. He, goes out again. But regardless of what Billy Joel does in that non-existent song, he can go out there and dance. He's already won this fight. He brought it, and it's ever so close. When I scored it, 87-85 on a 10-point must scale is how I got there. And that's close, and you can certainly dispute it. But if I was...
Did you say 87-85?
It's that close. Yeah,
Billy
Billy Joel wins, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And it's that second knockdown.
Let me see. You know what? It is that second. It's 52nd Street. 52nd Street is that punch to the kidney that makes you piss blood the next morning.
Yeah. You had to take a knee and,
Now, let's see. I've got narrow victory to Off the Wall based on 3, 4, 5 rounds to Off the Wall and 4 rounds to 52nd Street.
There you go. A split decision.
Wow.
Yeah, which seems appropriate.
Wow. Yeah.
But it didn't sound like you reached that
cow.
conclusion as you got down to 52nd Street, though.
Well, I gave round 1, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, to Off the Wall. I gave round 2, Rock With You versus Honesty, to Off the Wall. I gave round 3, Working Day and Night versus My Life, to Billy Joel. I gave round 4, Get on the Floor versus Zanzibar to Billy Joel. I gave round 5, Off the Wall versus Stiletto to Michael Jackson. Girlfriend versus Rosalinda's Eyes I gave to Michael Jackson. She's Out of My Life versus Half a Mile Away I gave to Michael Jackson. And then I gave the last 2 rounds, Until the Night and 52nd Street, to Billy Joel. So in the 9 rounds, I got it scored 5-4. Off the Wall.
Right, with the extra song going on top. And is there any benefit to the whooping that was delivered in round 2 or round 3 in either guy's favor, or the 52nd Street crushing? Is there? Because that's where my difference was those knockdowns. Where
I guess there is something to be said for the finish, and a lot of times when there's a deciding factor that has to make it not a draw, then you use the last rounds to do that. But I gave those last rounds to Billy Joel anyway, and it still was not a draw for me.
Nice. Well, there you go. Split decision. Yeah. Whole lot of beating off and not a finish.
Story of my life.
Well, that's okay because we have Richard out there, and he's going to call the fight, and
maybe he's going to. Yes, Richard.
Yeah. It's up to you, brother.
It's up to you, baby. It's up to you. And he will do the work. So I'm gonna look forward to that judgment call, and I'm going to honor it.
And I'm gonna put it up on Twitter right now and let Richard know it's up to you. We have a split decision on our side, and
yes,
it's great. It's just fantastic.
But I want to reiterate, there are plenty of people on both sides of this fight that we'd love to get on the show. I'd love to have Bruce Swedeen on the show. I'd love to have Greg Fillinganes on the show. And there are a lot of people who we miss. I'd love to have David Foster on the show, too. David Foster is dating Catherine McPhee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he gets a couple points in my book for doing that. Anyway, on the Billy Joel side, I'd love to have Eric Gale on the show. Ralph
Billy
McDonald. Billy Joel. Liberty's coming on. But yeah, plenty of... I mean, this was just a powerhouse fight,
it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you hanging out with me on a Saturday morning to figure this out. This concept is just so rich with discussion and everything else, and I loved hearing your version of everything as we went through it, and I can't wait to do it again.
Terrific. All right, the tie-breaking vote on this one was our satellite judge, Richard Lackey. Teeth driller, rib cooker, book reader, fellow warrior, and I'll add album fight decider. And he scored in favor of Off the Wall. He does the work. He posted his scorecard on Twitter, and you can follow him at Richard Lackey 1. He posted his scorecard at Break It Down Show. Richard, thanks, brother. We appreciate, as always, your thoughtful input. Off the Wall wins this one. Thanks to you. And we'd like to get the Wesinator in on one of these too. He's at GHQ Sonic Cuisine, and hopefully he'll be able to make that happen soon. Stay tuned for next week's album fight. For Pete A. Turner, that's at Pete A. Turner. This is John Leon Guerrero, that's at John LG69. Thanks as always for listening. Thanks for subscribing, sharing the show, telling your friends. And if you do me a favor and go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and a review, I sure would appreciate it. Thanks again for listening.